So I'm never quite sure what to make videos of. I realized today that I never made a video of changing an impeller, so we're going to do that today. Behind me here I got a 1998 Regal 2100 LSR. It's actually a consignment boat. It's going to need an impeller before we list it, so that's what I'm doing today. So follow along, I'll make it short and sweet, and you'll see this isn't that terrible of a job. So step one is draining the gear lube. Pretty self-explanatory. The drain plug's down here. Once you take that out, open up the vent. You can go inside and pinch off the line to the reservoir if you don't want to drain that. I'm just letting everything drain. One thing to keep in mind when you do this, you pull these plugs out, make sure you have the gasket on it, or you can find the gasket. It's pretty important. The bottom one came out with the gasket on it. The vent screw did not. So if we pan up, you can see it's still in there. So we'll take that out, probably put new ones in. But just let this drain for a few minutes and we'll go to step two. Alright, so we're all done draining. I got the plugs back in. I didn't worry about gaskets yet because when we're done we're going to have to refill it. But just go over this quickly. There's 7 bolts total. There's going to be these 2 on each side, which are 5/8. There is one deep down inside this hole. Hold on a second. There it is. That one is 1/2 inch. Once you take that out, your anode will come off, and there'll be another bolt underneath that. I forget what size that is offhand. And number 7 is back behind here. Right there. That plastic thing in front of that bolt is your speedometer. You simply just push in that yellow part. It's like a little button, and that lifts off the pickup tube. And those are the 7 bolts. And don't forget to put the boat all the way into forward before you start. It'll save you a lot of headache when we go to reinstall. Alright, so I got all my bolts out. I left one in, but I loosened it. Reason I do that is sometimes this doesn't separate very easily. So in this case I had to wiggle it and tap on it with a rubber mallet. But it did eventually separate, and that bolt still being there stopped it from dropping on the floor. So I'm not going to film the next part. I'll finish taking that out, hold that up with my knee, and it just slides straight down, nothing to it. So there you have it. Lower unit is off. A little bit of residual oil draining out. You'll have that. And we'll spin around. And there she is. So what we're after is inside of the impeller housing. But just give you a quick rundown here what all these parts are. Here's your speedometer pickup that I mentioned, that yellow button plastic thingy slides over. Here's your shifter. In forward position it's parallel like that, so when you go to reinstall it, it slides right back up into its receiver, we'll call it. It's just the guide tube for the water pickup tube that's still in the upper half. And if you look around this side, a little orange O-ring, that's your oil channel from upper to lower. So let's clean this up, take it apart, and I'll show you what the impeller looks like. Alright, so my 4 bolts are out. Those were 5/16. Take those 4 out. There was a little rubber O-ring around here. There it is. Slide that up the shaft. And sometimes you can lift this right off. Other times, just get a little screwdriver underneath it to pry it up. Once it's loose, slide it up the shaft. And there is your impeller. So although this one doesn't look bad, a lot of times you'll have cracks, or some of the corners will be missing, or all the fins will be missing depending on how bad it is. This one was just sitting for years and it's hard as a rock. There's no flex left in it. So that's why we're replacing this one. Another thing to make mental note of or take pictures, but the order of these gaskets and which way they go on. There's one gasket, metal wear plate, and another gasket underneath. A lot of times when you get kits, you'll get a whole bunch of gaskets that don't make any sense. So you gotta kind of sort through them and find the ones that you need. But just keep that in mind, you put that all back together right. I'll just show you quick here once I lifted this off. You know, even if your impeller isn't in terrible shape, there are other reasons to do this project. So this obviously needs to be replaced, cleaned up, but we'll get there. So here's what we got in our kit. The new impeller, the new key. This key goes inside the impeller. I'll show you that when we slide it on. Got our gaskets picked out. These are the ones that matched what we had. Here's that new rubber O-ring that slides over the drive shaft. Sometimes you'll get this, sometimes you won't. This is just a tool to push it on. So when you push it down on the shaft, this goes over it. And that's plastic. It stops you from pushing that on too far. And if we were to have removed the entire drive, we would have needed these, but we don't. 2 new gaskets for our drain and vent screws, and 1 new O-ring for our oil passage. So we got our gaskets laying on our surface here in order they came off. That little key I showed you before, that's right there on the bottom of the drive shaft. There's a flat spot there that goes in. It helps to put a little dab of grease behind there and stick it to there. Put some grease on the drive shaft, also inside the impeller. You can see in there, there's the slot that key slides into. So it's as simple as putting this on there. I'm going to have to put the camera down, but you can see that just slides over that and locks into place. So now that we got the impeller in place, put a nice thin coat of grease on all the fins here. Grease the shaft again. Also grease inside of the housing. And I've seen so many people do so many different things to get this impeller inside, but it's so simple. Drop it on, keep some pressure on it, and turn your drive shaft clockwise. Slides right on. So you do have to realign your gaskets, push it down the rest of the way. Once you get everything lined up, throw your 4 bolts back in, and we'll move on to the next step. So I'm not going to lie, this is about cut 6 on this little clip, and what it comes down to is it's almost impossible to explain this without it getting all perverted. So I'm just going to go with it. Bear with me. We got our new housing on. All 4 bolts are in, tightened down. Our new rubber is slid down over the shaft. Make sure you use that little plastic tool I told you about so you don't push it on too far. But make sure you put a good amount of lube on your shaft before you slide the rubber on. Here's our water pickup tube. Again, lube that up so it slides in there easily. And our shifter pointing forward. Don't forget about your new O-ring on your oil passage. And I'm not going to film myself putting this back on because I'm not that proud of how I look when I do it. It's not hard, it's just can be a little difficult. But if you do have trouble, like if you only get it in 3/4 of the way, what you can do is put one hand on your prop and spin that, which in turn will turn your drive shaft, because a lot of times these gears won't line up on your first try. So as you're turning the prop shaft will spin, or drive shaft will spin, then gears will eventually line up and it should slide in all the way. So it turns out I could have filmed myself on this one. Sometimes they do go very easy. This wasn't hard at all.
That's what she said.
Just make sure when you slide it in there, you have a nut waiting for you.
That's what she said.
So we are good to go here. I'm gonna finish putting all the bolts back in and give her a test run.